Well, hello there, my name is HW and thank you so much for watching Tone Junkie TV. For today's Kemper tip and trick, I want to talk about using the green screen as a lead boost. Now, we talked about the green screen, but we haven't really talked about lead boosts, and more importantly than the settings on the green screen, I want to talk about where we place it in relation to some other effects. So, starting off, this is the Lonester 1.3 profile coming out or available now, depending on when you're watching this video, in the new Tone Junkie Lonester pack. Check this out. It's clean, high wattage, high headroom kind of sound. Exactly what you get out of a lot of Mesa Boogie amplifiers or like a high headroom American style, like a Fender or something like that. Sounds like this. So there you go, just kind of a typical boutique-y, high headroom clean sound. Now, imagine we're going to use that and we're not going to switch to some other profiles. Imagine that's going to be our bass and we're going to use the Kemper stomps. What I really want to show is how the placement of a Kemper stomp, especially the green screen, can really affect the sound and how we might use that for a lead boost. So I'm going to go ahead and engage slot C right here. That's the soft shaper. Now, we've talked about the soft shaper in other videos. If you don't know, it's just adding some soft clipping, and it sounds like this with this profile. Alright, so you're sort of getting the feel for this it's a transparent kind of style overdrive. It's just adding some soft clipping. It's not really doing anything to the EQ. And depending on whether I put it on the bridge or the middle, you can either get more dirt or less dirt. It's sort of at the edge of breakup territory where you can push and get more dirt or hold back and get it cleaned up. Now, I've placed that in slot C on the Kemper over here, okay? Slot C right here. What happens when I put a tube screamer before it or after it? So I've placed the same green scream effect before this overdrive effect and after this overdrive effect. And I want to show you what it can do in both those locations and how it can really affect the tone and really ask the question, how do we get the best lead boost, right? Let's get into that. So here's what it sounds like by itself again. Here's with the green screen before it. You can hear all that congested mid-range being pushed in front of that soft shaper, and what it results in is sort of re-EQing of the guitar signal going into the effect, and that gives the soft shaper effect a different view of what the guitar sounds like. It's hearing much more mid-range, and it's getting the front of it slammed more. So what we're seeing is some gain on that tube screamer, definitely, but the soft shaper, the increasing gain, really is coming from that soft shaper getting slammed even harder, and that sort of honkiness that's happening, you know? That honkiness that comes with a tube screamer, that's being thrown in there and at the tube screamer stage, and then just pushed through. Gain is added at the soft shaper. Now, what happens if we put that same effect in the back behind it? So let's go overdrive into tube screamer. Check this out. Immediately you should have noticed less sort of breakup. It's actually a bit cleaner, but it's sort of even more honky in a way. We don't have the soft shaper now adding any sort of bass or highs back in with its own breakup after the Tube Screamer midifies it. We don't have any added EQ after that. What we get instead is the soft shaper taking a very wide breadth of the EQ, sending that into a green scream or Tube Screamer, and what we end up with is a much hollower sounding, sort of narrow, mid-rangey thing, right? So if we're trying to discuss a solo boost and where should we place our boost, or where should we place our, in this case, green scream effect or Tube Screamer style circuit, where should we place that? Before our drive stage or after it? Well, it kind of depends on what you're going for, but I want you to hear the difference. So hopefully you can hear that both of these positions of the green scream have this beautiful vocal quality. And that's something I'm a big fan of when it comes to leads. We want our instrument to have this vocal quality because most of the time in a lead, we're going to take over the melody. And the melody has been controlled usually up until that point by the vocals. But we want our guitar to have sort of a vocal-like quality. What I hear is placing it before a gain stage, it thickens it up and it sounds more 80s rock, if that makes sense. It sounds like gain in front of gain. That's the sound of the 80s and the sound of hard rock, multiple gain stages. Placing it afterwards though, especially when you set that Tube Screamer light or that green screen light, what you're going to get is not only just a volume boost, but a reshaping of the EQ. You're not going to get as much dirt out of it. In fact, you're probably not going to get much more gain than just running the soft shaper by itself, but you get this wonderful vocal mid-range coming into effect. This is where I would tell people this quality, using a Tube Screamer or something like this after a gain stage, is going to work beautifully in indie music. It's going to work beautifully in blues. It's going to work really well in praise and worship. It's going to work in environments where you don't necessarily want more gain, but you just want to come out more volume. Now you might at this point be thinking, HW, well wait a minute, I just use a boost. I just use a volume boost to sort of get out there more. Well, let me just give you this thought. I've been talking to a lot of mixing engineers, and I'm working on something called the HW Ultimate Solo Boost, and I've found some commonalities. Let's assume this for 1 minute, right? The problem with just boosting, volume boosting your leads is this. It's not how you would mix a track it's not how you would mix a track in the studio, meaning the lead guitar wouldn't just get louder. And here's why, and think about this. Let's say that a producer has a mix in front of them, that a live sound engineer has a mix in front of them. And let's presume for a moment that 3 to 5K is where the vocals are sitting. The producer, the sound engineer, the person in charge there has been shelving instruments and carving out this 3 to 5K space, right? There's a big hole, there's a chasm in the frequency range. They've carved it out. You have been carved out of that spot too. And your guitar, if it wasn't competing with the vocals, it wasn't living in that range heavily. Well, you've been carved out of that spot. So by simply getting louder, you're still not in that spot of 3 to 5K. Your frequency presence there is still very minimal, even when you just get louder. What you really would want to, when you want an instrument like the guitar to take over the melody, and you want to come out, when the singer pulls their microphone away from their mouth, where is this big, beautiful, carved out spot where the melody's been sitting? It's at 3 to 5K. So you want to have an EQ change, I think. You want to have a sound that jumps forward into that 3 to 5K when it's your lead, when it's the solo time, when it's time for the melody to be held by the guitar. And then when you get out of that spot, you want to retreat back to maybe 1 to 2K, those lower mid frequencies where you've been living before. But that really high stuff, that 3 to 5K, that's where, if the vocals have been there, the S's and the sound of the voice, it's been there, you want to jump in and then jump out of it. And simply raising the volume doesn't quite do that. So on a future video, we're going to talk about how to get out of the vocalist's way, but all that to say this: if you get out of the vocalist's way from the beginning, and the sound engineer, the mixing engineer, the producer, he doesn't have to shelve your guitar at 3 to 5K, it's going to be a lot easier when you want to use a volume boost or a little mid-range boost to jump up and live in that 3 to 5K range, because you haven't been there before, so he didn't have to carve you out. So now you're going to have more control. And what I hear on that second tube scream voicing, by placing the tube screamer after the gain stage, I hear you're getting a little more of a vocal quality and jumping into a spot where you might be competing with the vocals a little more. That's actually good, because that vocal spot is supposedly going to be empty at our lead part. At our turnarounds, when we have a little melody line, that's the space in the mix that's going to be empty. So to me, while a volume will work well, I think a volume plus a shift in the EQ will work even better. More coming up on HW's Ultimate Solo Boost, but all that to say, we're going to on purpose use an EQ to carve out frequencies that keep us away from the vocals, and with one hit of a Kemper button on the remote, we're going to both engage a tube screamer-like effect and disengage that EQ, which is going to prominently put us back in that 3 to 5K range. It's a very logical approach to the problem. And I've been talking to a lot of mix engineers, and they've been all telling me the same thing. You got to carve out the guitars there. But my question is, can the guitars jump back in when it's time for a solo boost? And everybody says, yeah. So there you go. That is a Kemper tip and trick for the day. Where are you going to put your your tube screamer, before or after a soft shaper, before or after the rat style overdrive, before or after any gain stage? I think they both have their merits. For a solo boost where I don't want any more gain, maybe like in praise and worship, like in the blues, like in indie music, maybe like in classic rock where I don't really want to get too much dirtier, I'm going to go afterwards, and I'm going to let that EQ push me into the vocal range, and then I'm going to retreat back out. I've been HW. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As always, check out some of our stuff at tonejunkiestore.com. We have a ton of free stuff, a ton of just awesome profiles, and there's so much free stuff. I get this question all the time: HW, what should I buy? I have my Kemper on the way. The answer is, go get a free pack. Go get the Tone Junkie free pack. Go get free stuff from Profile Crate. Go get the free effects downloads. You truly, truly have to spend $0 to get great tone out of the Kemper, even from commercial profilers like Tone Junkie. So, hey, there you go. I've been HW. Thank you so much.